Hello. It is yet another episode of Write Once, Read Many. This time I'll be covering chapter 16.12 and 16.13 and rounding out arc 16. Anyway, just gonna quickly start the speed draw. And Alright, and as we can see in the drawing, we've got the confrontation between Imp, Gru, and Skitter. And Greg's here. Oops. Well, there is a sneak peek of the art from the next chapter. Alright, so, as a reminder of the audience participation questions, we've got 16.12 on a scale of 1 to 10. How much do you hate it when there's a misunderstanding between characters that seems like it's going to be hard to clear up? There was already kind of a comedic answer by 2 plus 4 times 5 saying that their answer is sort of reverse scale, where 10 is that they love when it happens, and 1 is when they hate it. Although I think I had initially intended for 1 to be I don't hate it, and 10 to be it's the worst. And then the 16.13 question, because I couldn't think of a good one, going back to the old favorite, MVP of this cape encounter. So we'll discuss that when we're there. For themes, I didn't know how to say it exactly, but it's like, it feels like the trappedness and the closed in and closed off nature of Skitter is like definitely a thing. Just the whole way it feels, I don't know, during 16.12 and 16.13, when I was reading it the first time, it all felt kind of hopeless. It felt like they were totally cornered. And then, but they weren't. You just got to get right in under their guard and reversal of fortune them at the last second. It's the only way. Yep, can't think of any other themes. So, hopping into 16.12, Skitter is actually able to find her team pretty quickly. They are surrounded on all sides by teams of Coil's dudes who are like moving along with them and setting up mortars ahead of them, and then just sort of constantly repositioning to be able to attack whatever position the Undersiders are at. And the reason they're able to keep up with the Undersiders is that they're walking along on foot. Skitter assumes that the reason they had come up with to be on foot was that her double would say, like, oh, Dinah's too scared to ride the Doge. Which, I mean, fair enough if that was true. They're pretty big, scary things, and she can see all the bad outcomes if she were to get bit or whatever. um, let's see here. So, and that the group that Skitter's trying to meet up with is Imp, Gru, Bitch, Dinah, and then evil Skitter Double, who she doesn't know that much about, but we will learn within these 2 chapters that she was a double that Coil had prepared. She was a former child soldier from Sudan, and the data that she used to study Skitter and like mimic her movements and stuff, that actually came from the PRT data that they had stolen in Arc 10 for Coil. So it looped back around on them, and it didn't, sometimes when you do things, those things lead to other things, like copycat versions of yourself who want to shoot your teammates. Or other things, maybe. So all these squads of soldiers are, they're all radioing in, and they have like check-in schedules. So if they miss the check-ins, it'll be noticed. So she can't attack one of the squads and then like pick off squads one by one. Because presumably a bunch of the other squads on the other side of her team would be able to attack. Boop, 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 boop. And so, she's like thinking through all the different things she could do, because there's a whole bunch of soldiers again, and she doesn't think she could win another fight against dozens and dozens of people again because of how injured she is from earlier. I mean, the bombing injuries were bad enough, and then she had all that smoke inhalation and getting shot, and this, that, and the other thing. Actually, she gets shot twice. She gets shot by Coil initially, and then in the arm, as we may recall. Where are we? So, oh yeah, Skitter speculates a bit about if Coil remembers like what it was really like to lead people in the field, because it's been so long. Which doesn't super make sense to me, because even though he hasn't been with the PRT in a while, he has still been leading troops around Brockton Bay for over a year in his Coil persona. So that's a bit of a stray thought. I think she's wrong about that. I just probably think he thinks of situations differently than her, She thinks for a minute if maybe he wanted to keep her alive. Her mind is like racing with all these different possibilities. She says she's not sure of anything later, and that's why she can't 100% say anything. Oh yeah. She is able to get a bug over. Well, she's within like sensing range now of like her teammates and stuff, even though she's outside the perimeter of the soldiers, and she can sense that the double has a bunch of bugs pinned to her costume, which I find pretty cool, and then also pheromones. So the bugs are like hanging around her as if she was really someone with a bug power. Oh man, what a sales pitch. So you need to pretend to be this teenage girl and shoot her friends, and there will be bugs covering you. Lots of fun for everybody involved. Oh yeah, Skitter's still blind, so she has to sort of estimate based on 3D bug models of the area where different people are looking and what their sightlines will be. And It helps that it's dark out at this point, but the enemies do have night vision goggles, so unclear to me how good or bad they can really see her in the gloom. Let's see here. Dinah starts signaling to her in a way that makes her believe that Dinah knows she's with a fake version of Skitter. And then she convinces Skitter to come in, and basically the signal is that first she moves the ladybug to her like heart, and then she like plays it off like she's just scratching herself, and then she smashes the bug against herself in a way that she's probably calculated to say like, you need to go now. And at least that's how Skitter takes it, which means that it worked. She doesn't think that she can signal to any of her teammates, and she realizes that she can move through the sewers. So she, for a moment, runs away from them, then kind of goes underground. Let's see here. Yeah, she's all like, I didn't have time. Vic is here. Cool. Thank you, Vic, for the art. I have displayed. I accidentally showed the other chapter's art a minute ago, but I think this one of Gru and Imp's faces is quite good, and the knife that Imp has, I like that it's just sort of a triangular stab rather than like a. And maybe that's supposed to be the taser. I don't know, but it looks like a triangular stabby knife, and I like it. 2 + 4 × 5 is driving unplowed snowy roads in negative Fahrenheit temperatures, so can't promise to be paying much attention to the stream, but still half listening. Indeed, and given the conditions, probably don't type any more responses unless you're stopped at the time. Yeah, as Greg says, don't die on our account. You can wait until you get to work or whatever to type the next message. No. I knew what you meant. 2 + 4 × 5. You were saying okay, I won't to the dying on our account, rather than to saying. I got what you meant. And let's see here. So, Vic says, we actually learned from Taylor this chapter that driving without seeing wouldn't be that difficult. That's true. We should all close our eyes while we're driving. Let's see here. For legal reasons, this is not driving advice. Let's see. Boop. So, yes, she gets down the storm drain. She's running around. She's able to get in a close enough range. She's able to get like kind of under her team, and with her extended range, she finds the coil squads on all sides of the scenario. And so once she's in place, she says, I hit each squad in the same moment, a tide of bugs washing over them. I tried to wind cords around the noses of mortars, snag them on anyone who was moving, but they were too stable. And then she does stuff like a guy tries to get a bomb into his mortar, and she puts bugs on him. She puts a whole bunch of bugs on him and ties his hands with cords, and she's tying people to people, you know. And then as soon as he backs off from the mortar, then she eases up and says she's settling for a more general form of attack. So she'll only mega sting you if you go for a sniper rifle or a mortar, what have you. The fake Skitter seems to know what's going on and is signaled. So then she takes this moment to be like, "This was all part of the plan," and then in Taylor voice, and then she shoots bitch and drops a a flashbang, and then is teleported out along with Dinah using the Tinker version of Trickster's power that Leet or Chariot made. I guess I'm not 100% sure. I think they say in the next chapter that Leet made it. He definitely made the bug box, the swarm box, which he will call the famine engine. And I kind of love that moment next chapter where he's like, "The famine engine, please." Pretty snooty for being named Leet. But yes, her team is terribly shocked. They've been betrayed by the real Skitter. Their friend Taylor has betrayed them, and they can't believe that this has just happened. She's been doing all this just to steal Dinah. And she was never really working with them. Even from the very beginning, she was planning to betray them, and then double planning because she was a fake real hero and a real fake villain. No. It is, of course, just the evil duplicate who has betrayed them, not the real Skitter, but they don't know that. Let's see here. Also, it's funny here when she's like, "Did he clone me?" So Skitter, something bad starts happening. Skitter's power goes off, and this is why she thinks maybe he cloned her, because suddenly a big force overrides her orders to bugs over and over again and tells them to like attack and move clockwise around a specific spot. And so they just like all bugs are attacking or seeking, and they start attacking the Undersiders. And then let's see here. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, so she's able to sense where the swarm box is almost right away. And she decides she has to go shut it down, which makes sense. Good plan. And then that is when the flashbang goes off, and then the fake Skitter teleports away, and then boop, 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 right before she teleports out, Dinah is tracing the capital letters for sorry on herself to Skitter. So we still know that she's kind of on board. Although there could be an interpretation of like, "Sorry that I betrayed you." But no, it's more like, "I'm sorry that I've done this to you, that I've written a plot that will make Vic so sad about the friend misunderstanding." So when she reaches when Skitter reaches the building with the swarm box, it's all boarded up, so she uses some more of her very limited ammo supply to shoot the boards, and then she's being tracked down by the dogs, and then Bentley's trying to smash his way inside the building, but apparently the building was actually like fairly reinforced. It's not like all the shitty buildings, because Coyle had wanted the swarm box to be defended in some way. But this helps Skitter because she's able to get over to the box and Bentley isn't able to smash her. But he howls, indicating to the other Undersiders where she is. It's actually probably like the best possible result that she wasn't able to destroy the swarm box, because once the other three get in here and they're like, we're about to kill you, then Vic says she didn't finish the message. It was sorry not sorry. Yeah. She was trying to be really flippant, but like only got a chance to seem sincere for a moment. So, but yes, Skitter's unable to destroy the swarm box. She's bent down over it. They get in, and this is where the chapter images, Gru and Imp have her kind of pinned, and then Imp is very like, oh, I'm gonna murder you. And then Gru pins her down in a way where his knee is on her wrist, which, man, I gotta say, I think that's on her arm that got shot. Like, I know he thinks she betrayed them, but it's a very painful thing to happen from a misunderstanding. And then bitch is like, I'll kill her myself, and then Imp's like, I'll tase her to death, and then Gru's like, I don't know, her power works while she's asleep, and he's very dry. And then she can't explain herself, but manages to say, use dark, and with yet another caveman response to Gru. Man, Taylor, really embarrassing yourself being such a cave person. As a throwback to Arc 3. He is able to understand that he should use his power, so he does that. And when his power flows over her, Vic says, Gru W for actually listening to her here. Yes, like, not only listening, but correctly interpreting what she wanted, because use dark, I mean, in the heat of such a frantic moment, I'm not sure that everyone would have known correctly. Vic says, honestly, I think it was a sus request. Maybe. I don't know. There's not really any downside to using your darkness power unless there's like a power backlash power in play. It'd have to be such a she'd have to have allies they'd never heard of. I don't know. But anyway, so he does use the dork, but when her power is weakened by his power, then the bugs actually intensify their attack because she is unable to use her power to do a constant override message to try and stop the bugs from doing what the swarm box wants, because she's doing like a push and pull with it like every split second or so. But then, importantly, the darkness allows Gru to sense the signals being sent by the swarm box, and feel that there are these third-party signals that are neither him nor Skitter. So that's good. And I don't know if he can link up with like a Tinker power either. Like, she's directly on the box. I had never thought about it before. I don't think he can, but maybe he could even sense the Tinker tech in some way. But it's enough of an explanation to say that he's sensing it through her power. So he is able to verifiably agree that she's telling the truth. He has bitch use bastard to destroy the swarm box, and once the swarm box is destroyed, then they stop attacking immediately. We get a, you're not buying this, are you? From Imp. And then Gru is very stalwart in just saying it wasn't her. And I mean, luckily for us, he was able to sense it, and so he doesn't have to just be playing this off vibes. He has evidence. Because I imagine he's not feeling great or trusting in this moment. And the chapter ends with Skitter essentially saying she can't explain what happened because Tattletale and Regent are still with Coil and they have to focus on that. Or rather that they can't get her taken care of. Anyway, she just re-brings up the fact that it's like, these are the stakes. Our two most closest homies, they may be killed by our old boss, who sucks. And yeah, I'm really glad that within the span of just the one chapter, they managed to clear up the misunderstanding created by the duplicate, because much like Vic, one of my least favorite storytelling tropes is, oh, this misunderstanding that's hard to clear up happened. Just because it's like a lot of the times when something really unbelievable, like a series of events will happen on like the TV show version of this that lead it to be like completely unfathomable that like what the hero is saying is the truth, and it's just like, how are they ever going to solve this? Because like if this was real life, I just don't think it would get cleared up cleanly. So there's something very emotionally stressful about the misunderstanding genre trope of media. And the fabricated misunderstanding like this one makes it especially like, how are they ever gonna... Yeah, so stressed, like Vic says. How are they ever gonna clear the air? How are things gonna be okay again? Between our hero, who we are emotionally invested in, and their friends, who are our friends. 2 plus 4 times 5 says, I'm pretty sure my hand sanitizer bottle has an ice cube in it. Yeah, it started snowing here a little earlier than I was told it would, because I was like, we have not yet hit the point when I was told it would start snowing, and then I've been told that there's gonna be like some crazy amount, like 10 inches. I don't know, but it sounds like wherever you are, it is worse. We have like a couple inches on the ground right now, but we're not like our roads are not very good in the first place, so we're not super ready for it when there's a bunch of snow. And 2 plus 4 times 5 also says, at work now, so I'll definitely listen to the rest later. Alright, if you can find a way to sneak that earbud in, I don't know. I won't advise you to drive in a risky way, but I will advise you to work in a risky way. Let's see here. Oh, and in my final chapter thoughts, I did write something here. I write, Skitter is dead. She has been replaced by a clone. That one was for Greg. More final chapter thoughts. I love how she's able to beat all the soldiers all at once, and like it's not even a big deal for her. I did think to myself specifically when I was reading it this time that if she had wanted them to stop from using a mortar, I think a good thing to have done is put, like at the beginning of the attacks, have like tons and tons of bugs shove themselves into the tube. Like, if the bomb can't slide down the tube, I don't think the thing can work. Like, the mechanism at the bottom that fires it out wouldn't fire it if it doesn't reach even like the halfway point down, I think. Greg says, I'm over here trying to figure out what to call this new skitter. Kitstrex? Tix-Scrat? I think that's her Organization 13 name is Kitstrex. I think that one's really good. I think Tick Scret is a little harder for me to get behind, but Kit Strax is very compelling to me for some reason. Although I think that's more of a Kingdom Hearts nobody name kind of thing. Um, I think the new clone of Skitter should be Skitter with multiple eyes, um, much like Luke. Famed clone Luke, and the clone after him with three U's. Um, oh my God, Star Wars is dumb. Let's see here. So, any final chapter thoughts aside from that? Boy, am I glad that Skitter wasn't able to destroy the swarm box before they got there, because then it would just be her word against nobody. And they didn't believe her. So yeah, that would have been a disaster. But it would all according to Keikaku. Everything has happened according to Dinah's design. And with that, I think I can move on to 16.13. I think I didn't check on this, but I think that this is the longest chapter so far. It is it's almost a full hour on the Rain audiobook, like the original one. And it's not like it's wasting the runtime. I think it's a lot happens in this chapter. And I wanted to I'll say it a bit more at the arc stuff, but it makes sense that this arc is the longest one. It's either this one or 26, but they're within like seconds of each other on the audiobook length. So they're both just incredibly long. And it's because they have like tons and tons of chapters, and they each have like a few chapters that are just like massive in length. Yeah, Vic says it didn't necessarily feel longer. Yeah, I was surprised when I went to see how long the audiobook listen should be, and I saw that the first chapter was just under 45 and the next chapter was just under an hour, and I was like, well, goddamn. I guess a lot happens. But yeah, it feels so intense that I never really realize how long it's going. So moving on to the actual 16.13 review or summary. For a little bit, Imp and Rachel, or Imp and Bitch, are still very hesitant about this stuff, but Gru convinces them he has Skitter explain what happened. She says that she got teleported when the headlights flashed. And Gru explains from their side that he used his darkness to cover them after it had happened. Although my guess would be that the teleport happened before he had even used his darkness. Because if he wasn't looking directly at Skitter, I don't know that there would have been enough of a visual indicator. Because apparently, when they looked at her moments later, they didn't notice that it was a different person. So I think they'd have had to be looking at her right as it happened. And only he would have had the chance to see it, because everybody else got their eyes flashed. They don't think Genesis could have done it. We, again, learn later that it was an actual duplicate, a child soldier who had grown to a teen soldier. And they don't think that the Travelers were in on it. She's pretty sure that Coil was trying to kill her, but as I said earlier, she says she's not sure of anything. was clearly more convenient once he couldn't kill her to try to frame her. Um, uh, and then, given that he was trying to frame her, it was sort of, it almost worked. I can't quite tell what Coyle's thought process was, because it definitely still seemed like he wanted to bomb them out after they even had the chance to, like once she was attacking the teams, they were trying to bomb the Undersiders, basically. So I'm not sure of the exact order of operations from his side, but it was mighty convenient that he could try and have them kill her off. And then they realize that before I skip past it, there's this great line where bitch says shadow and dagger. The shadow and dagger shit pisses me off, and I love that. And then they say that Coyle doesn't know that they didn't find her and kill her, so they're going to pretend that that is what happened, and then they use the ruse. Gru, before they realize what's happening, starts a phone call with Coyle, and he's been talking, I forgot to mention, he's been talking about how she needs to go to the hospital and stuff, because she keeps coughing because of the smoke inhalation. One of those really fun things to have, smoke inhalation. So once he starts the phone call, then I think he does some pretty good acting. It seems like he's just letting his real emotions seep out and color the way he's talking. So that's pretty cool. I think it works out. You know what? When I read this, every time I can't really tell if Coyle knows that it's a ruse, that Skitter's dead and that she's actually alive, or if he doesn't know that, because I just feel like Gru's acting in this moment is pretty convincing, and all the things he say line up, and the position he's coming from makes total sense, I guess. So yeah, I don't know, that's really interesting. That it's hard to tell. There's a lot of ambiguity in this entire book, in all of Worm, but I think around Coyle specifically, there's tons and tons of ambiguity on what was actually known, what was the thought process, stuff like that. And it doesn't feel it in no way feels like a plot hole. It just feels like I had talked about a couple weeks ago, or last week with Vic, where it's the not knowing helps, because if you over explained it, it would feel weird, and there is a bit of each reader is filling things in their own mind with how they sort of thought it all happened, I guess. It can get bad if it is too vague and you're just wait, how did any of this occur? That's the bad kind. You don't want your readers to feel lost, and you don't want them to kind of just think, oh, nothing matters because something random will swing around. But I just think it's all very well balanced in this. Anyway, so the phone call goes kind of bad. Pretty soon in the call, Coyle is already coming up with his own version of events where, it sounds like Skeeter was working with Regent. I better put Regent under arrest because he betrayed you too. And then he's like, I need to see Skeeter's dead body. And then so she sort of crumples herself onto the swarm box and looks all dead or whatever. And then he sends a picture of that. And then Coil's like, I'm just as shocked as everybody else. I can't believe that Skitter would betray you, and probably Regent too. And it sounds like Tattletale was in on it. Seems like you three were the only ones not betraying everyone. You can only trust me. Vic says, Skitter and Regent working together would be quite the plot twist. Yeah. That'd be the most shocking twist of all. And then Coil hangs up on Gru, and this makes Gru real mad. And then he's like, I didn't think of the fact that he'd just hang up on me. And then he's trying to call again. He's like trying to keep him on his heels, he says. And so then Skitter explains like it's a control tactic for the conversation. And then Coil does pick up again, and then Gru pushes in, and then this is part of when he's like, I think she may have been using Regent to control Victor, to hack into my systems. And it's like this really like convoluted plan that doesn't make any sense. And then Gru is challenging him on it. You and I both know that Victor didn't have that kind of access. And then he brings up that nobody knew about the teleporting machine before tonight. And then he's like, but I think that Skitter did know, actually. And I don't know. It's so funny because all of his lies are both like slightly plausible things that might have happened and completely like laughable when you know the real story. Coil's such a bastard. This is in one of his most snake oiliest moments is these two little phone conversations. And then he's like, we should meet up. And then Gru's like, not at your place, because you'll just get us. And then he's like, we can meet at a neutral location. And then he's like, all right, we'll go to the market, because Skitter puts up the market in floating bug letters. And then they're like, the call ends, and then they're because actually Gru hangs up on him this time, which is good. He kind of, I think that this was a good move from Gru. He learns the tactic of being like a douche who hangs up mid conversation, and then he employs it immediately to pretty good effect. But then they decide that on the way there, they need to figure out how they can come up with a fake dead Skitter. And the way that they do this is that the dogs eat some raccoons, and they put all these like half-eaten dead animals into her costume, and then they like wrap it up onto one of the dogs or whatever. It's very like grim, but also very funny. We get a page break, which is the gap between them deciding on this plan that they need to have a fake Skitter and go to the market, and then them being at the market. Because they just use like a couple sentences to describe the interim. But the market, given the state of the city, is pretty much just an empty area of like a flat expanse of concrete surrounded by a flat expanse of like tall grass plains. And I guess a few of the stalls are left standing, but I assume that most people didn't come back and remake their stalls after the Leviathan attack, and that even the people who did realized that just the city's so unsafe that you can't really just have merchandise out. So, yes, the market is very underused right now, so they can meet here even though it's a big public place. Let's see here. Oh yeah, I forgot this part. They had put part of a child's mannequin into the costume along with the raccoon meat and stuff. Uh, Greg says, "You've heard of guy made of bees. Prepare yourself for girl made of raccoons." Yep. So, oh, and they had a wig on top of the mannequin to get the hair right. And Bentley was carrying it in his jaws. That's what it was. Skitter is in a bad way. She was only sort of moving on due to adrenaline, and now she's like about to pass out. But the meetup starts in the tall grass, and so it's Gru, Imp, Bitch, and the dogs meeting Skitter meeting Coil and a whole bunch of soldiers, and they sort of are trying to sell the ruse for a minute. I think all doing a very good job of it, except then Coil's like, enough. He is not going to entertain their ruse any longer. And then he starts monologuing at them, and then a whole bunch of soldiers teleport in, and a whole bunch of the travelers and Circus, Uber, and Leet, and Chariot are all there. So there's like a shitload of capes and a shitload of soldiers. And there's dudes with laptops and stuff. And they've got a bead on all of the team members. They know where she is hidden in the grass, as well as like they can see Imp. Vic says, "No wonder Coil didn't fall for it." And in an alternate universe, they're a traveling thespian group. Yep. So Skitter walks out, and they have sort of a conversation. It's like a long back and forth. He's saying that Regent and Tattletale can't be here because of whatever, and he had been planning to keep the other Undersiders in his group, but his hand has been forced, etc. And then he's saying, "Farewell, Undersiders," and then he's going to order for them to all get shot, except Skitter starts endlessly being like, "But had you considered this?" and like lying about different stuff. Her first thing is, "There's a dead man switch." Coil's like, "Well, that does sound like you. This is plausible because of how annoying you are." And then she's like, "You're gonna need Tattletale to stop the end of the world." And then then he's all like, and she's like, "I'll stop my dead man switch," which reveals that you're Thomas Calvert if you let my teammates live. And then they sort of settle on, it goes back and forth, and they different things are agreed upon, and like obviously everything Coil says, like, I agree, he's lying. But even though he's lying, he can't bring himself to tell a bunch of like certain different stuff, and he's like, she's like, "I could sense his patience was ready." So it's kind of funny that his pride keeps him from like telling certain lies, even though he always lies. And then Skitter says that she wants to verify that Tattletale's actually okay. So then they teleport in a shackled up, eyes and ears and mouth bound Tattletale, and she's like, "Not good enough. That might be a body double." And then he's like, "Fine, it is a body double." And then they teleport in the real Tattletale, which I still find like incredibly funny. That even when he's teleporting in a person, he doesn't. He intends to not let speak or hear anything. He teleports in a body double, and then the real her comes in, and they use their code of um, the color of a thing, then the starting letter of someone's name, followed by the color of another thing, and the ending letter of that person's name as like their call and response code to tell that it's really one of the Undersiders. And uh, so given that, boop, 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 then when she's eventually able to speak, oh man, I forgot. The point when they bring in the double is way before the point when she can speak. So they kind of go through this whole song and dance of like, I could just kill the person with the dead man switch, and then she's like, I hope you don't, and then she comes up with an excuse for why he doesn't have to in case she loses. And then she tries to loop in the travelers, and they're like, and Trickster, he's like, "Don't bring us into this." And then she says that he turned on them first. Coil gives an explanation that he used one of his alternate timelines to torture one of the Undersiders to get the information that they were planning to betray him. Um, uh, and then he explains how the body doubles work. They ask about the swarm box, and we get Leet going, "The famine engine." And then they explain that they like use the readings of her powers from when she was with Trickster at the mayor's house. And then the reason they just didn't teleport her on top of a bomb is that every time they tested out the teleporter in previous attempts in like alternate Coil timelines, every time they did it, then the duplicate would get pulled in and murdered by the bomb or the acid pit or whatever. And he says that using his power, he found out that it wasn't a chance that it would fail. It was fully like 100%, which I kind of find hilarious. Leet's power is just so shitty. Um, it's both really good and so shitty. Um, we also see that Coil knows about what Bonesaw calls the passengers, and he calls them the agents. The agent that controls the power. Vic says it was definitely Imp who he tortured. It would have worked on Alec too, but I feel like he's too weird for Coil to try and deal with. Now, see, I almost asked in the question, like, who do you think he tortured? But then I thought it was too. From my perspective, it's like almost a sure thing it was Gru. Um, so, so I didn't ask it because I thought it was more of a thing. But I guess everyone can voice their feelings on how they think. Who do you think that Coil tortured to get the information? Vic thinks it was Imp, and I think it was Gru. So, yeah. Um. So, yeah. Skitter threatens again with the dead man switch thing, which again is a full bluff. She does not have a dead man switch. It's just fake. And she says that, like, I can't believe you'd spend all this time setting everything up, all these plans just for everything to fail right at the last second because of this dead man thing. And then he's saying it's because he's so careful that Tattletale can't speak. And then he's like, all right, I admit it. Or no, he doesn't admit it until Bitch is also saying, she goes, your word is worth nothing. And I find that funny. And then later on, she's like, you're a cheat, Coil. And then proving how evil he is, he says that he's going to shoot her dogs if she says anything else. Vic says, Gru thinks torture doesn't work. He would never succumb just to prove himself right. Good point. Good point. He has to prove himself right. He's very stubborn. I do love how angry Rachel is this chapter. Yeah, she's fucking pissed. And then let's see. He finally admits that it's a Tattletale double. He signals to Chariot. Then they get the real Tattletale. Another Tattletale appeared. She dropped to her knees the second she materialized. She wore a similar headset and bindings. And then they free up her mouth and her ear. We finally get Skitter calling out Rose L. And I think the rose being the red word is... I don't know if they had pre-planned what word they would use, or if Skitter was in on the string bean plan, or what. I'm not sure how communicated that was between the two of them, but I thought that the rose was a good touch, because whether or not it was intended to be this, first of all, recalled my mind to Annette Rose Hebert. So, like, in her, like, her red signal, her danger signal that she's giving to Tattletale, also accidentally like a call out to her mom. And then also, much like a beautiful rose has its thorns, beautiful young Tattletale has her thorns, and uses the ultimate plan, the string bean plan, to have all of her soldiers take the situation over. There's like a very small amount more talking, and then Coil tries to have people shoot. Gru and Skitter do get shot, but it's like not the worst. They both get hit in their armor. And then all of Tattletale's soldiers have turned the tides and like got everybody else at gunpoint after they have switched loyalties midway. Well, I mean, shown their true colors rather. And then Gru convinces the travelers to hold for a moment by yelling out to them. Tattletale says she's gonna like overpay what Coil was paying, and that the team captains are already in on it. So then their underlings pretty much like switch sides with them as well. Coil yells that he'll give $1 million to anyone who shoots any of the Undersiders. But no one does, even though Skitter really expects it to work. I think the threat of everybody else will suddenly shoot me, or like there will be so much chaotic fire if I start shooting, like, it's a pretty good reason to not shoot, I guess. It's hard to spend $1 million when you're dead. Well, it's hard to enjoy $1 million when you're dead. And so Tattletale responds that she's been stealing the whole time. She's been stealing from Coil. She's been skipping off to the bank vault to steal extra stuff during the bank thing. So finally, we get one of those Arc 3 Mysteries Revealed, what was Tattletale doing when she was gone, when Glory Girl showed up, you know? Oh, Greg makes a good point, too. Or even just Coil needs to still be alive after to pay up. That's true. Yeah, shooting one of them for the $1 million gets you nothing if also Coil dies. um. Trickster pretty much says, like, look, this is all well and good, but my team could beat everybody here, and we will, to save Coil. And then Tattletale is like, one, you're not wearing armored costumes, which I'm not sure about that. Like, they're not spider silk, but they are made by, like, the person who made their costumes is quite good at making things. So, you know, they're cape level materials. And then, but also that there's like a bazillion soldiers. And then Trickster says, like, I'll swap everybody out as soon as you start shooting, and then you'll get shot, and I'll be alive. And it's like, he could maybe time that, but it doesn't end up mattering because, oh, wait, I guess I should say, Skitter tries an emotional appeal on the others first, and then, Imp, tasers Trickster first, and then tasers Sundancer as she tries to make her son, and Ballistic fires some pebbles into Genesis, which is enough to destroy Genesis's form, because Ballistic's pretty powerful. So Ballistic does directly join their side and turn on them. He says, I'm done. This was a doomed quest from the start. So yeah, they take out 3 out of 4 of the Travelers in a snap. It's pretty good. And it would not have worked out without Imp, because I think Trickster provides like an incredibly troublesome foe. Someone who's very hard to stop if he can have free reign of just like doot, you know. His complaint that he had to fight a cop to get to the mayor's house is like a baby complaint, because it's like, with your power, that should not be hard. But so Coil's calling out all these like last minute, like, oh, I'll have them work with you. We'll do all these things. I'll give you the $1 million if you shoot them. All these different things. He's throwing out every last thing he can think of. And Skitter moves over like she's about to. She's like, we know what has to be done, and is going to shoot him. And she's thinking of like having tried to kill Mannequin and stuff. And he goes, "You're not a killer." And then she's very emotional, and she says, "No, but I suppose, in a roundabout way, you made me into one." And then she shoots him in the face. It's pretty pretty crazy stuff. And she just like lets the gun drop as it the recoil goes. It just like falls out of her hands, and she kicks it away from Coil so that his faceless form can't use it, which she realizes might be overkill, but she doesn't want to take chances. I really like this moment too, and she goes, I thought the narration was really good in the rain one, but she's talking about the Travelers, and she says, the Travelers will be pissed. We can't kill them. It's my reading there was only just mid, but the reading in the audiobook was very good. Tattletale says that they'll move on. Then Gru goes to help her, and then as they're leaving and they're getting into the van, then Bitch sits next to her, and we're getting to the era where she's calling her Rachel all the time. I don't think she calls her bitch at all this chapter. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, no, she does. She thinks of her as bitch up until the point when they're on the same side again. And then, no, even into the conversation. I'm trying to see where the Rachel changeover takes place. It's like this weird thing where, like, all chapter she's switching back and forth between saying Rachel and bitch. Interesting. Well, she ends it on a Rachel, and it is indeed Rachel who is sitting next to her and holding her hand when they're in the van. And she's not sure what to make of it, but she accepts the camaraderie. And then we get another page break. They go to Coil's underground base. I'm going to switch to the art draw. So as you can probably see, this one's going to be Dinah. Yeah, they get to the underground base. You know, they're still talking a bit. They're like, you're going to be okay? And it's like, I don't know. I guess wait, she talks about her emotions first, not her physicality. She's like, I'm more bothered by the fact that I'm not bothered. And then they agree that she needs to go to a hospital. Tattletale uses Coil's phone to get them into the base, and then she goes to they go into the cell with Dinah and Mr. Pitter, and then they say, your boss is dead, just go. Then she goes to get Regent, and Skitter's talking. She apologizes for how long it took, and Dinah's like, I'm sorry that I sent you on the path where your friends would try to kill you. And then they're both sorry, and they're both okay with what the other one says. Then Gru's like, we have to go to the hospital. Regent shows up, so we know Regent's okay. They leave Shatterbird in her cell for now. And then something bad happens. Tattletale is there, but then the vault doors were ripped off from the wall, and there's no Noelle. And they realize that a comm channel was opened between Coil and Noelle's cell, so Noelle started to flip out, hearing Tattletale say that there was no hope for her, etc., hearing Tattletale say that she was the one who left the low battery fire alarm in her cell, which is what kept her up at night, all as a portion of, like, distracting Coil. So, she's pissed. She hates the Undersiders specifically. She wasn't able to notice because he was using his power so rapidly and trying to fool her power. And she was looking around for, like, snipers and stuff. And then the ending of it is Skitter looking into the vault and saying, on a scale of 1 to 10, just how bad is this? Let me answer your question with another question. You think we could get the PRT to turn on the air raid sirens? So, yeah, that's our cliffhanger for the arc, is that something as strong as an Endbringer may have gotten out, and that something is Noelle. And we've seen Noelle, and she's pissed. Noelle's back, and she's mad. Yeah, that's the chapter. And as far as final chapter thoughts on just this one, it's like Vic said, it does not feel as long as it is. It feels like a normal length chapter, even though it's kind of huge. Simultaneously, like, a lot happens, and you're just racing through it, I feel like, on first read. But it's a good one. Another good one. As far as arc stuff, I will wrap that into, like, also the overall arc view. These two chapters are, like, a great way to end everything. This is a great end to the overarching villain that's kind of been since the very start of the story. Because, like, her first, like, I'm gonna go undercover was to find out who uh, Coil was. So, like, from Arc 2 to now, he has been the big bad that we've been trying to root out. Um, and I don't know if what like quite word count wise where we're at, but this is a decent like halfway story point. We're about half of the way through the story, and she finally takes down this big enemy, and we'll have to see how things shake out after this. What will become of our dear Taylor Hebert? And as far as like the overall arc, this one's so huge. Again, like I was saying earlier, it and Arc 26 are like almost tied. They're both like massively longer than most of the other arcs. Uh, the entire like first third of this is the dragon stuff, and the next third is like the mayor stuff, and then the final third is like uh the Taylor betrayed kind of thing. And there's a bunch of good. I think there's the 3 interludes. Yeah, 3 really good interludes. And they are like additional table setting to all the like huge amounts of that they did with the 4 interludes in the previous arc. So like even though a lot of stuff is getting resolved in the end of this, they've set up so much with the Noelle conflict, with all of the side characters who have like left the city for various reasons. And I don't know. I think this is a really good arc, and as I said in the earlier portion, like I think some of the like 16.5 and 16.6 like I remember having just this moment when I was listening to the conversation after they kidnapped Pig-O, and this was before I ever started this like stream project or anything. I just had re-listened to that part and was like, damn, this is so good. Like the voice acting is really good in these chapters, and the writing of like the character dialogue and the situations and the different little power plays that they have, like everything is so good. And I think that this arc has some really exemplary standalone chapters, whether it's 16.11, which is like a crazy action scene that, like I said last week, one of our friends, his dad just randomly listened to only that chapter and found it like super compelling, completely out of context. But let's see here. What are the other interludes? Oh yeah, there's the Pig-O PRT flashback chapter. That one's really great with all the Nilbog stuff happening. Seeing the prison for realsies was really great. Yeah, this arc rules. Monarch is really good. But I shall move on because I don't have any more directed stuff to say about it. I would just be randomly gushing about it as I have been. For the characters, we see a lot of crazy character moments between between the 3 of them who met up with Taylor in the swarm box room and kind of had to undergo the like you betrayed us to you didn't. It helps that Gru had the power or whatever, but I think like the power is almost like a metaphor for like it gives us a story reason why he's able to fully believe her. But I think that it's just in a way like an obfuscation of the fact that like for character reasons he would fully believe her, and now we just have like sci-fi reasons also. But yeah, I think that works really well as what it's doing. And Brian, like I was saying earlier, undergoes this whole like acting thing where he's just letting the emotions that he already has, like all these crazy swirling emotions, release, but at the same time, like telling a lie with the emotional fervor. Um, because he's already, like, he doesn't need to feign all these negative feelings. um, and then, I guess it's like interesting that it's Rachel who ends up sitting with her at the end, not for like reasons that Rachel wouldn't, but like I guess it feels like she beat to the punch both Brian and Lisa, who would have wanted to be the one. But I guess I'll talk about Lisa. Lisa pulled off her ultimate plan. Everything that she's done up to this point has been leading to the moment of string beans when she would take Coil's powers, and by powers I mean money. Uh, she won. She's been in like a year-long battle with Coil, and she beat him. She got out from under his thumb, which like even from the very beginning, like her relation to Coil was like very confrontational, control based, whatever. Like I think that he maybe thought that he had turned things around and given her more of a relationship of trust or whatever, but that from her perspective, she was finding a way to defeat Coil from long before that they met Taylor. So, yeah. And then moving on from Tattletale to Rachel, or from Lisa rather to Rachel. Rachel is pretty. She's put through the ringer with the whole like getting shot by fake Skitter, and then trying to kill real Skitter, all this shadow and dagger bullshit. She's just not having it. I think this is probably a really painful time for Rachel, but the moment where she comforts Skitter, like all that stuff, I think her bond to Taylor has been just like fully solidified at this point, and then I don't think there's a point later in the book where she doesn't trust her again. So that's kind of cool. We've fully crossed the threshold of friendship with Rachel and Taylor, and we've been trying to get there since like our 5 or 6. So for quite a while. And then we've got Imp, Aisha. She is very, very, very helpful in defeating Trickster, and she doesn't believe Taylor very easily. And I don't know. She's pretty easily able to believe that Skitter betrayed them until they have evidence that Skitter didn't betray them. I think she was the least sympathetic to Taylor in that trio. But, you know what? I think in the end, it's okay. I think that she does respect Skitter, as long as she doesn't think that she's been betrayed. We get Coil having his some of his most oiliest moments on the phone with Gru, and then we see his most desperate final moments, and then he's gone. He was never not a bastard. Who else we got? Oh yeah. The fact that Ballistic betrayed the rest of the travelers, but that the other 3 tried to stick with Coil, who is no longer around. I wonder what ramifications that will have going forward. Yeah, Trickster. He kind of he's kind of like suspicious when they say that Coil pulled this on them first, but he just like on a certain level doesn't care about any of that. Like fixing Noelle is the only thing he cares about. So, yeah. It's sad for Taylor that she's not able to convince Sundancer or Genesis to join their side, but you know what? At least uh Ballistic, even though he's a bit of a grouchy bastard. But I'd rather have him on my side than against me, I guess. Who else is there? Oh, Elite gets a moment to be snarky. Again, him saying the famine engine is like a perfect comedy moment. It's nice to have some lighthearted beats in such a emotionally harrowing few chapters. I guess all the side characters, all it's good to see that Tattletale was charming enough to bring slightly more than half of the soldiers, most importantly the captains, onto her side. So, yeah. And then powers, knowledge, and world building. Again, we get like kind of an awesome display of without ever like seeing where the seams are, like Coil just endlessly using his power, like in the moment, just constantly splitting and unsplitting. And how if you split too deep into a event, then you might have fucked yourself, which he did, because there was a point of no return at which he was stuck behind. He shouldn't have gone with his team. Very arrogant of him. Yeah, I don't have that much other power stuff. I think it's awesome that she takes out like all teams at once. Starbuck takes on all 8. And yeah, that's all. Well, I guess we're done with all the sections except audience participation. So let us move over to the Discord. Okay, so we've only got one answer here. You've got for my first question about on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you hate misunderstandings between characters that seem like they're going to be hard to clear up? 2 plus 4 times 5 gives us an answer of 4, but then clarifies, but only if you assume that 1 is hate it and 10 is love it. So I would give that a 6 on a normal scale, where if you hate this trope the most, you put a 10. And then says, see how there could have been a misunderstanding there? That's an example of thematic resonance on different levels of storytelling. Yes, and I appreciate that joke. And then, given that nobody else has put any answers, I'll just read the other question and then I'll answer both of them myself. 16.13. Who is the MVP of the Cape encounter at the market? So, for my answer for 16.12 on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you hate it when there's a misunderstanding between characters that seems like it's going to be hard to clear up? An 8. I dislike it quite a bit. And if Vic isn't here, I'm just gonna assign a 10. Vic full 10 hates this trope. And then as far as the MVP of the Cape encounter at the market, I mean, I think the obvious answer is Tattletale, but the true aficionado, their answer is Imp, because she tastes Trickster. No, I think it really was Tattletale with Imp getting second place. And then probably third as Ballistic. See, that's the thing, is their team, there's not that much jockeying for position here. It's I think either Tattletale or Imp. Those are the two answers, really. And I will accept comments explaining why there are more than two answers and that I'm wrong. I would love to hear about it. Well, despite how long the chapters were, and very good chapters, they were full of a lot of dense details, so I actually have taken, I think, less overall time than the chapters so far, and I'm still here at the end of the stream. So, I don't know if anybody has any last words, goodbyes or anything, but I am going to replay the speed draw and listen to the old outro. Oh, Vale, you missed it. Oh, but you're here at the last second. You know what, Vale, now might be the time, if you have an answer to either of the two questiones, you know, the 16.12 or 16.13 from the audience participation, I will wait for the old type out, and we can, since you're here, we can double watch. We can do a speed draw. Oh my garb. Speed draw for 16.12. Look at those beautiful faces. Gru, Imp, triangular knife, hair, bugs, hands. Scale of 1 to 10. Where 10 is you hate it the most. Despite what 2 plus 4 times 5 said. I would say 2 plus 4 times 5's answer on the real scale is a 6. Would you look at that drawing? Vale says, interesting question. I don't hate it at all, as long as it's story-driven and fits the characters. I really, really 10 plus hate it when it's contrived. 1 when it's natural. Okay, it is worse when it's contrived, but oftentimes, even when it's not contrived, I'm just like, can't stand this. And then over here, we've got a sad little Dinah. It is funny to me that at first she was further away in the perspective, but perhaps Vic realized it would be really, really hard to tell what she is if she's too far away. Vale says, I think it multiplies how strongly I feel about what I read in other works. If well done, brilliant, and I love it, I might be emotional about it, but I still love it. All right. Fair. And then the MVP of the fight is an Imp or Tattletale. I'm going to start my, Tattletale is MVP. Somehow, I knew that you would say this. But we'll go out on the final use of the song Monarch by our good friend ScarlettXOX, who you can find at twitch.tv/Scarlett_Rogue. Our Discord server can be found, or link can be found in the channel description as well as the stream description. The link to, or these other links as well. And the author of the work can be supported at patreon.com/wildbow. Full text of the work is available online at parahumans.wordpress.com, and the fan-made audiobook of the entire work is available at audioworm.rain-online.org. Vale says Tattletale is MVP of everything always, which questionable, but I'll accept it for now. And then Vale's gonna watch the rest of the stream later, just like everybody else hearing this. Goodbye to Greg, goodbye to Vic, goodbye to Vale, and goodbye to the future 2 + 4 × 5 who's listening to this. See you all next week when we cross the threshold into the Vic zone, where Vic is the leader of the stream.